All right. Energy, energy, energy. All right, babies. Today's video is fun because I actually remembered something, probably at random. I remembered a scene in a manga I was reading once. It's called Tough. Yeah, of course, man. You go through all that shit. So there's a beautiful scene in that manga where there's a tournament and they kind of like release people into the wild, and whoever survives basically wins. And they kind of like all the fighters of the tournament, they start searching for each other, and then there's this unique fight. There, naturally, our fighter wins because he basically absorbs all different techniques. Anytime he's close to losing, he kind of like awakens why he is losing, and then he re- re- restructures his techniques and his stance and attack style, and kind of like builds on top of like what he already knew, and suddenly he's like this level up kind of guy right in the moment, and it's fucking fascinating. But there's this the people who got accepted to the tournament are super high up, right? Like there are people who have been training for that tournament for so long, and it's just kind of like one of those like pride, I'm gonna win and show everyone who I am kind of thing. It was super beautiful. And but the scene that got to me is there's our guy. Let's call him. He's tough. He's the guy. Whatever. There's the mixed martial artist, and then there's the karateka. The guy who does karate basically he was strong. He was arrogant, but he was very much under the mentality that I'm the winner. I'm a winner mentality. And he was very like prideful and very much boasting on the wins that he had to actually like go through in order. I should really read that. I'm gonna read that like manga again, probably this week. It'll be a good way for me to kind of like detach. Uh, he was like boasting about the people he succeeded in uh, over شو اسمه. What's the word I'm looking for, man? He succeeded in just, I don't know, surpassing them. The people he succeeded in surpassing until he got to where he is. It was one of those fights where everyone was kind of about to lose, and then they end up kind of figuring something out. But our guy was stronger than the other guy. The reason I'm mentioning the scene, and I'm kind of like putting some of the context there in order for you to understand thoroughly something that happened. So the guy that does karate, which is not our guy, ends up losing. And when he wakes up after he kind of like felt unconscious, and he wakes up and he looks at himself and he goes like, I lost. And he looks at his hands and he goes like, I can't believe I lost. And he stands there for like a minute or so, grown ass man, full blown like evil aura earlier and fighting and like all this aggressivity and like male sweat and shit like this happening. And then he just cracks and he starts crying, but not crying like shrieking, no. You know, it's one of those very, I don't know, it's just, my first thought was, what the fuck? Like, how could he cry like this? But naturally, the manga was written beautifully in a way where our guy ends up just standing and putting his hand on his shoulder. And he goes like, don't worry, I will make sure I will be the one that wins this tournament. And then as he walks, there was another person with them, and he goes like, why would you tell him that? And he reflects and looks at him. He goes like, I wanted to reassure him that he only lost to the number one guy because the way he was crying was a telltale, was him basically releasing the burden of all the people that he had defeated in order to reach where he is. And so, from a structured perspective, I'm getting goosebumps. From a structured perspective, is life literally somebody has to win and everyone loses? Or is that just the games that people created in order to add some significance to our existence? Okay, so let me rephrase that question. Are we okay losing? if we're losing to the best of the best? Or is it that we don't really play the game anymore? Because let's just say we're not interested. Isn't there a bit more for us to. No, what am I trying to tell you? What am I trying to discuss? I am trying to discuss the thoughts. I am trying to discuss the relevance of the moment and the responsibility the guy actually had on him, of which he could not afford to break character. And the minute he lost, he was unburdened by all that responsibility and kind of like brought him back to himself. Now, it's that state that got me thinking about this. And I don't really remember when I thought of this, but it's that state that made me think about him. And that state where he is kind of like his body released feels right now, as I'm reflecting on it, as if he has been building, has been adding pressure and building on top of something without really allowing his evolution to take place properly. All right, why is that? We only learn when we fail. I think that's the solid truth. We can understand. The more we fail, the better we get at doing something. I've written this here sometime 2 days ago. It's funny. The more we learn, the more we شو اسمه. We'll find it later. The more we do something, the more we learn about it, and the better we get at doing it. But that doesn't mean we're understanding it completely. And the difference between these two fighters, and I'm still using these fighters, like it's still one fucking video about one thing. I'm trying my best here. One fighter understood at the core how he performs his martial arts, while the other fighter just understood how to win and kinda was brute forcing himself through it. He succeeded enough, but when it came to the best, he had something that the best had something that he didn't have, which is the best admits defeat a lot faster, even before he is defeated, in order for him to evolve, change, and shift. While he himself would never admit defeat and would always kind of like build on top of whatever he had before. So he never got the chance to like go neutral. He never got the chance to release the thoughts that couldn't potentially actually lead him to victory. If he had, yes, under normal circumstances, that's what people call luck, right? Like, no, he got lucky and he ended up winning. But the reason people say that is because people of actual substance would only lose out of like luck. So one's luck is the other person's unluck. Whatever, that's not what we're discussing. So the actual master of the martial art that understand his martial art or his style deeply, was able to admit defeat many times while he was actually like still fighting in order to evolve beyond the state that he was in, whilst the other guy was brute forcing his own success. And it reflected by the end when he started crying, when his like tension and responsibilities, like the one thing that he's been pushing for, the one thing that he's been just when you're actually intensely doing something, and then when you don't do it, you kind of feel that release in pressure. What if that tension, man, has been happening for so fucking long without you noticing, and when it's finally done, you're like, I think those are the moments, and that we say, what now? Now what are we doing? And eventually, what the fuck are we up to? I think those are the moments where we kind of like realize that we've been working in a certain direction in a uniform way or one way, and we could have done things differently, and we could have like just been different. And that would have allowed us to evolve differently, smoothly, maybe better, simpler. Eh, it's like it's just the learning that supersedes understanding. But if you're refusing to actually accept your failure, if you're, and I think that's basically how the people that succeed always anticipate failure. So how do you anticipate failure? You always ask yourself this question: how can this fail? And then you start finding the points where how this could fail. And then as you find these points, you answer them and you kind of like sort out how you can avoid them. And eventually, the only road you have is success. That's a fucking video. I fucking love it, man. I fucking love it. There's a difference between true understanding and brute forcing. Uh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. It's, I read this fucking manga about 8 years ago, man. For some reason, I remembered it like 5 days ago or like 2 weeks ago, maybe. I don't know. It's a lot of fucking notes between today and last. A lot of notes. Yellow babies. Have a good night.